Frontline Chat with Harry Tanguy and Dave Wardell.
Then you can say hello. You can say hello. Look. Hiya.
My nice warm fire. I'm going to do mine straight after this. Put the fire on. See the rugby. I mentioned the result of that. It was
I haven't seen that yet.
No, Ireland v Wales. So I'm going to be following that. Welcome, Jem, as well. Jem, you're joining us today as well because you have a little secret that many may not know. Jem is Dave's wife, and that's not the secret.
She needs a medal for that alone.
Well, sometimes right at the beginning, I was never recognised as your wife, was I?
Yeah, now you could have a T-shirt made, couldn't you, Jem? The wife.
Yeah, I nearly got a T-shirt made.
Yeah,
Did
the
you?
wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, lots of people thought other people were Dave's wife.
Ah.
I thought you were my wife, Harry.
Yeah. And I said,
well, yeah, we could. Quite happy to be your gay lover anytime, Dave. No problem.
You right?
You're saying move on now, Harry. Move on. We're going to welcome Lisa Burnett. Lisa Burnett today. I've known her for ages. She was a call taker in Devon and Cornwall Police. She was a special constable. She's not anymore because she's now dispatcher. She's been dispatcher for a long time. So radio operator, dispatcher, resource deployment officer, I think is RDO, which is the term. So yeah, we look forward. And you have something in common as well, don't you, Jem?
Yes, I've done that job.
How many years did you do it for, Jem?
Yeah, I went back up there after maternity leave. So I had a couple of years up there until I managed to get back out again on the streets.
Cracking. So I'm going to be looking forward to speak to Lisa anyway, because I hope she's not going to tell a few tales of mine, because she will have dispatched me a number of occasions, an awful lot. So I'm hoping she hasn't. I've just forgotten all the bad moments. They were just all amazing for me now. I've put them behind me. But we've had just catching up with. There's been a few things in the news, hasn't there, recently?
Yeah, just quickly. It's the 3rd anniversary of Fabulous Finn next week. So, best-selling book. So, if you're looking for something for Valentine's Day, you want to make your other half cry, buy this.
Perfect. Missed it. Missed the solo thing. Go on, put it on there again.
There we go.
Did you say 3rd anniversary?
3rd anniversary. Can you believe it's been that since it was released?
It's a brilliant book as well. Really brilliant book. So yeah, recommend it.
There's been some incredible things. Yeah, I saw that. There's been some incredible things, incredible bravery and some funny stuff and all sorts of bits and bobs policey connected in the news this week that we're going to share with you before it comes on.
Well, should we put this one up first of all, actually, while we're doing, because we're going to bring Lisa on in a moment. And just add this one, really. This is a cracking one, isn't it? A lot of comments about this one. You can see that, now, I believe he's actually fired the taser at that point.
Yeah,
and now that gun
off, I think, and then he so obviously he's got another cartridge to go, hasn't he? Is it two on there now?
Yeah, you can have 2. And the good thing about them, whereas the old ones you had 2 and it was an individual one, and then it was 2 again. It was 1 fired, and then you take that one out and you put another one. Well, now you can literally fire there and turn around and fire another one, and they're both being zapped. So you have to be pretty clued up to actually do that. Taser, initially I thought, well, if he hadn't tasered, it was probably a very heavy jacket. Sometimes it doesn't work with that, as you're aware, guys, you two are aware. And do you have taser, you two?
No.
You don't? Okay. So I've seen it very effectively, and I wrote a blog called "It's the Tool of the Pacifist." I think it saved numerous lives. I think it's over the world, and in this country where there would have been no option but to shoot someone, especially with a knife who's running at you. But with this one here, the other option is and basically, yeah, it seems like the taser wasn't really effective. The other thing is just keep an eye on. I mean, with a gun, I mean, you take the risk, but with the muscular contractions, you'd probably think, well, if I taser him, is he going to pull the trigger? That's the other option. So I'd be
just go back to that video, Harry.
Yeah.
Just go back to that video. So again, for those who are not sure, he's not an armed cop, but I think it was a pursuit that ended, and then he's having I think they've been fighting for a little while at this point. Cops trying to gain control. He's obviously decided to use his taser. We don't know what the job was, but clearly there's a firearm which turned out later, we think, to be
imitation
firearm. But when that's pointed at you, you've got no idea. You don't know what that is. It could be live. Could have bullets.
There's no way you think
it could be a blank.
Is this it?
Be plastic. Boy, you have no idea whatsoever. So the bravery of that is just incredible, and that's what. Not every cop faces that every day, but the bravery of your cops out there every day.
I mean, somebody said, "Oh, well, we had no choice." No, he had the choice. He could have run away, and he could have been shot in the back or whatever. But what he actually did after that was, let's just see if we can catch it on this one here, is what happens afterwards. There he goes. That's the bravery bit. He's now, he went back and he tackled the guy afterwards, because he didn't want to risk that guy with a gun in the public domain. So
we take our hat off to that cop and thousands like him this week who really showed, that we are very lucky to have the cops that we have in this country. What else have we got? What else have we got?
Yeah, well, and it is worth noting, it was like the investigation that occurred 3 years ago, which was another terrible story for the Met. It is horrible to hear those sorts of things. I'm hoping things have changed in 3 years. There seems to be an issue in certain parts of the police. I know, Dave and Jem, you're in the police. You wouldn't put up with that behaviour. I know I wouldn't have, and I certainly didn't witness it. And I'm just wondering, I think it's really down to strong supervisory that allows what is accepted in your arena. And if people have really poor supervision and there's one person who's a bit of a bad egg, then that can spread perhaps. I don't know, but it's something that needs to be sorted now. It's enough really with that, isn't it? But we have this one here. I don't know much about this, but this is it's obviously not this force. But this dog is having a really good time. It looks like a golden retriever, is it, Dave?
Yeah. I'd imagine it's a bomb dog, but it's possibly an airport or a transport hub. I think the story, I'm not sure, but I think the story is that the handler tried to say it was home time and the end of the session, and the dog was like, nah, hang on a sec, I'm not sure about that. I'm not ready.
See the woman in the background videoing as well. Yeah.
And if
I love it.
I did a video of Hero once, trying to get her back in the van, and she does a loop or two, and it's pouring with rain. So there's lots of reasons to get in the van, and she doesn't want the session to end, so she just goes round and round and round until I tell her to get in.
I saw that. I saw that video. We need to put that on. That's brilliant. With Hero trying to get in the van, we've got to put that on again when you for next week or whatever. It's fantastic. We do have this one here, and I think because it's quite nice that we could say, we could cheer this one because a court said not guilty. This is the guy who actually. This is where we've got to be a little bit careful because criminal justice system is often accused of being very, very weak and not being it's just not being, what's the word I'm trying to look for? It puts you off from doing something. So we've got to be a little bit careful where people start taking the law into their own hands, but you can sort of understand why people are in the frustration of things at the moment. Things need to be improved everywhere. This one here, for example, is a farmer who won in the court case because he said that basically it comes down to the fact that his home is his castle and he needs to protect it. These guys, I think, had actually punched the farmer. He'd got his tractor equivalent thingy.
They're parked on his land, by the way. He's got a local beauty spot on his land. Yeah, they're being abusive, refusing to move the car, and he decided to protect his property.
I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. But this is a problem. It's dangerous, isn't it? Because it could have easily have been convicted in another, in a court. Oh, look, that's pretty dodgy, isn't it? That bit there.
Well, again, that was part of it. That was assault, and he was cleared of that as well. I think the thing to understand is that these farmers and landowners, I can't remember where that was in the country, but they're often a very, very, very long way from the nearest crop. And they will have rung over the years, and the response might not have been as quick as they like. So what do? Do you stand there and get beaten up and abused?
Yeah.
Well, he decided to take things into his own hand, and
quite right. What you were saying, there was a big part of intimidation for farmers, where they have their quad bikes stolen and whatever from groups, organised crime, and that side of things, where it's just intimidation because they know that the police live 30 miles away, or working 30 miles away. So
to driving over all the crops. We have a lot of that here, where they're just driving over all the crops and damages.
Is that hair coursing, that side of things as well, is it? Or
hair coursing and poaching and things like that.
Yeah.
Or literally just driving across the fields.
Yeah.
Fun.
No, that's no, exactly. And
the farmer was arrested. If you get involved in something like that, you are probably still going to get arrested because that's part of the investigation. But it appears that the court made the right decision this time, and he was set free.
Indeed. Right, let's bring Lisa on, shall we? Lisa Burnett. I think it's the right pronunciation, Burnett. Bet she's laughing. I can see her in the green room. She's got a bottle of red wine in the green room. We haven't mentioned this, have we? The amount of alcohol we put on in there. Off her face right now. Look, you can see it. No, welcome anyway. Lisa, I'm going to bring you in now. You are RDO, which is a Resource Deployment Officer, was a dispatcher, call taker, and special. So welcome. Hello. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Good. I have had. I had literally a 2-minute. I'm going to get rid of that badge thing on the thing. I had a 2-minute conversation with you earlier just to check the line and things, and that was working fine. And you said that you taking your son to your dad. I'm going to highlight the fact. What did you have to do? Inform your dad and why at this point about your son?
I had to write a 2 A4 double-sided sheet of what to do and what not to do.
Because was it his first time? His first time, is it?
He works full time, my dad, so he only gets them at weekends. So because it's Kim's birthday this weekend, I thought, because I've got him a steering wheel and now he's playing on the PS4 for the rest of the day. I thought, we'll let Ollie go after his grandparents. And then I said, have you baby proofed everything? Here's the instructions. And then he goes, yeah, we'd be fine. And as soon as we got there, Ollie was just climbing everything, getting hold of door stoppers, trying to get hold of bowls. Like, you haven't baby proofed anything. It's like, quick, turn off the phone.
Well, that's why we had twins. We were quite lucky because we just always had a spare. So it's we could. Somebody said I keep a spare for organ donation as well, but no, that's really dark. I'm sorry. We'll move on. Sorry. Dave. Well, anyway, you haven't spoken to Dave yet, and Jem, have you? But Lisa,
I've met Dave once at Woodstock a couple of years ago with Finn.
Cool.
But that was ages ago now, about 3-4 years ago now. But I've never met Jem. So hi.
Probably there.
Yeah, you're probably there, hiding in the background.
It was a hot day, to be fair. It was quite a hot day. And
was that Dartmouth?
You were there as well, weren't you?
Yeah,
we met Mike Bate down there, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right. But no, welcome anyway. Because what I want to ask you is, it all started. So you've been in the policing environment for like 9 years, is that right? 9.5 years?
9.5 years now, yeah. It was like a life sentence.
And how did it start off? What made you go into it?
Well, originally, my plan was originally to be a dog handler. I thought, me being with the other half who's ex-job, we sort of talked about going into the control room and then take it from there. And we've been looking at the website all the time for like jobs to come up as they're known as call handlers back then. Now they're known as contact officers. And we saw it come up, and we thought we'd go for it, see what happens. And I remember I got the first notification that I got an interview through, whereas Kim had to wait another week. And then we went through. Back then it was just an interview and a typing test, whereas nowadays it's an interview, a typing test along with spelling test, assessment on like you listen back to 909 calls, take down the 10 pertinent facts, and then you get assessed from there. And then we both joined as back then was known as CDIB, which is the Crime Data Input Bureau back then. So you had, just to put it in layman's terms, you had these people that took 101, 999 calls, and then you had the ones that took public criming and police officer crime recording calls. So we got trained in that. So I started up as that. Absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved the criming aspect of it. And then I sort of thought, I went out with the dog unit actually one day, and I couldn't keep up with them. I was like,
yeah,
it's true, isn't it?
You said that the handler's attached to the dog, so actually they're cheating. So if you've got a dog.
But even worse than that, I've often followed dog handler. I often say, "Oh, can I tag along?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, great." So, and I, apart from the dog that I didn't know was called Harry, and she just kept saying, "Come on, Harry," and I thought, "Blimey, okay," but it was pitch black, absolutely pitch black. I couldn't see where I was walking, and that they were just going off, and I was tripping over everything and whatever. I couldn't use a torch because I didn't want to give the game away. Oh, it was just amazing.
Yeah, I went over uneven ground. I just don't know how they do it. Really don't.
No, get used to it.
No,
you do get used to it, and you learn how to face plant gracefully. You say that the process you described for getting in when you got in and for now, I mean, that would single me out. There's no way I could do do your job. Gemma did it for years, and she came home with stories like you've got, Lisa, and I'm sure, and I used to think, crikey, we couldn't do our job. Harry and I couldn't do our job without the likes of you and Gemma. The people that you work with.
And I often would.
The victims in this area and the officers in this area, and trying to coordinate everything to bring it all together. Sometimes it can go wrong as well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you've got to listen to it going wrong down the line.
Were you both, Jem, were you a call taker first and then radio operator? Were you radio operator as well?
Yeah, I did both. So we just have one big room up in Hertfordshire.
Yes. Same.
So yeah, just did both. So I would be radio during the day, and then when late turn come in, you just go over and do call taking for a couple of hours and things like that.
Oh, right. Do you mix that, Lisa? No, you don't, do you? You usually start with call taking, and then sometimes you can apply and
we're
move
all,
on.
In Exeter, we're all in the same room. Plymouth, I think they're in the same building, but sort of separate rooms. But you can. The only thing we don't do as radio operators is 101 calls. We do everything else, Niners and the RDO aspect sort of thing, but we don't do 101s. There might be one that drips in every now and then, but you just deal with it because of your experience and that, what you hear, what you see, what you dispatch to, you just deal with it, but sometimes, if they are short staffed, we'll go over, we'll do Niners whilst they put people on 101s in order to help the queue, sort of thing.
Is it hard to keep up is it hard because I've been up there quite a lot, and you get quite a few nuisance calls or drunk people calling, or people calling for things which they really shouldn't be calling for, like they've lost their cat or something, or it's is it hard to keep your patience with these people?
It can be. I mean, I'm a very laid back person anyway, so it takes a lot to really, really roll me out. It takes a lot. But you just sort of just say, look, it's not anything we deal with. You get it all the time. Someone will see a fire and ring us and say that there's a fire in the field. Well, we're not going to go and arrest it. You need to ring the fire department. You know, but so, you know, some people that say, "But I don't want to disturb them." It's like, yeah, but that's what they get paid to do. You don't carry around losers.
Don't wake them up. They're sleeping.
Yeah.
They've been playing basketball.
I keep my cool in nuisance callers. It's when they're repetitive and they're purposely trying to get a reaction, and they ring 999 constant. And it does really whittle you down, because you're trying to help those that actually need the help. And then you get this one nuisance person that wants to block up the line. Yeah. Because what a lot of people don't know is that there's 20, I think, off the top of my head, 20 strands of phone line for Niners going into the control room. So 20 people phone 999 at one time, goes into the control room. If one more comes in, it overflows to Dorset or Avon Somerset. They take that call, comes down to us. So you get that nuisance caller will pop out one that actually is a genuine emergency, goes to another force, and it can delay it. You know, eventually we can put blockers on the callers, but it does take a while.
No, don't you? So like we would start off the shift and we would get a regular nuisance caller coming in, and then you'd send everyone a message saying, oh, they're on one tonight, expect more calls. So you get to know who all your nuisance callers are. There's a handful that will call in sort of 10 times a night sometimes.
But isn't it, is it really, it takes a lot of bravery for a boss or for you guys to actually say, right, because I think it needs, at some point, people need to take some responsibility for their own actions. And we don't tend to think that much nowadays. And so if they do 1,000 fake calls and then they really need help, it's that, you know, crying wolf situation. There would be hell up in the police. Well, you know, you did it. When actually I think, well, that was their fault. They should have been more responsible when they were beforehand. But it's a difficult line, isn't it, in this day and age?
I mean, we had a lady... so I'm back out on area now, but she was constantly calling up 999 when she was drunk. So what I did as the local officer is I put an order on her saying that she's not allowed to ring police unless it's a genuine emergency, and it stopped. That lasted 12 months. The day after when it stopped, the day after, she started ringing again. Yeah.
She's compliant. she's
literally, I think it was literally the day after. It's just the way some people are. You know, she'd have a bottle of wine and then decides, oh, I'm going to ring the police.
Is it lonely? Go on, Dave.
No, I was just going to say, while we're talking, go back to that picture that Lisa put up of her workstation, because I've got to say, is what my nightmares are filled with. The amount of information you're being bombarded with. You've got 3 screens, you've got a phone, you've got bosses, you know, asking you for updates on this, and people on
for the radio.
Foot pedal for the radio. You're talking to, you know, I don't know how many officers you might have on area, 20, 30, 40, 50 officers, and someone will give you an update for this, and someone more information for that, and someone wants a phone number for a vet, and no. And honestly, I don't know how you go home after a shift and sleep. My brain would be whirling. And that, again, that picture that Harry just put up, that's my worst nightmare. You know, obviously, mine and Harry's world is the other end, where we're out there dealing with fast roads and
I used to chastise sometimes my own officers. I could name them when they would say things like, so we're moving on to the radio dispatcher now, obviously, and they're saying, oh yeah, could you attend so, and they go, yeah, received. Can you find out from them, you know, something, and it's something really minor. I'm thinking, well, just get there and ask them, for God's sake, because now there's poor people. He's got to dispatch. Yeah, oh God, you know.
That's what we say when our foot off the pedal.
Yeah. Now I was going to ask you about that, because sometimes I think if I was them, I would be going. And I had said to these officers, just get there and find that out. You're not asking which direction they went. You're not asking what colour the car was. You're actually asking them.
We had it the other day. It was called in that there were 35 travellers fighting in the high street of a small town. Literally, the high street is about 75 meters long, and there's this, whereabouts on the high street? I was like,
I'm pretty sure if you get there,
No, or another one would be there's cows. There's 2 cows loose on the street. Someone's recorded in on the road. A bit worried about a road collision. Could you attend? Yeah. What colour's the cow?
Yes.
Well, it's black. So if you go past a brown one, ignore it. Because that's a law-abiding one. It's like, for God's sakes. And
I've had that before. Can you phone them back and ask what colour it is?
Yeah, but that's like the broken down
in the morning. What colour's the cow?
Broken down vehicle on the motorway. Well, what vehicle am I looking for?
The one that's broken
down in the
well, it's not doing 70.
Did you get a registration for it? Why would I need one?
Yeah.
Well, like if it's burning, do you know the registration? Well, no, because it's burning.
Yeah, it's the one that's on fire. Don't worry, you'll see it.
So actually, police officers are just as bad sometimes as the people.
This is a question by Karen, and often it takes an awful lot of work, time and effort and to prosecute. And I suppose after a long period of time you block and whatever, but do we get any prosecutions, or do you find a lot of it is mental health, that side of things, where you could prosecute them? It wouldn't make any difference either.
Well, what I feel like in the last probably 3 years is that we've really become quite more zero tolerant of it now, because there is a huge knock-on effect to nuisance callers. You'll have, like Jem said, you have these SOPs, standard operating procedures. As soon as you put the name in the log, it pops up saying frequent caller, blah 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 blah. But I know of a couple that have constantly rang in, and then we give them a final warning saying, you do it again, you'll get arrested. And they go, oh no, I won't. And they go, right, send that officer off, knock on the door, thank you very much, come with us, arrested, done. And then wasting police time or hoax call, whatever. We do get a course of conduct of it. And, I would say, like I said, we've got a pretty much zero tolerance to it now, more so than, more recently we have, which is good, because it does have a huge knock-on effect to everyone. It really does.
I think that's the other thing as well. I think sometimes perhaps the public don't have an idea of what happens when someone rings 999, and the amount of information that the operators need to get from someone who's either witnessing or in the middle of the worst moment in their life. And there's so much information that they've got to get to make sure the right resources are coming to the right place. There's nothing more frustrating. The operators struggled to get enough information, and we've gone to the wrong town. And I've been to jobs where it's been the wrong force, just because there really is. They can't get enough information because it really has gone to hell behind them, and they're struggling to even communicate. And it's very hard. The work
that's a very good point.
999.
That's a very good point. But also, Dave, it is the effect it has on the radio operators. Now, I've always said that when I've gone to all these fatal road traffic collisions, I noticed a slight difference. When a collision occurred in front of me, I was sat on the observation perch on the motorway, minding my own business. And I saw a caravan jackknife on the road opposite, on the lane opposite. And it was quite effective. I thought, wow, that was good. And I went, because it was like non-injury. And then this car just went through it, and it was an explosion of polystyrene and stuff that went in. And it was shocking. It was like, wow, because it was happening there and then. Yeah. And then I had to realize, blimey, to get my car over there, I've got to go 15 minutes up there and 15 minutes back down the motorway. So I jumped over the barrier at that stage, but it was still, luckily, it was non-injury. The difference is when I'm going to a fatal, be it double fatal, you've got warning, you can mentally prepare. And with a radio operator, and a call taker, specifically a call taker, I suggest, is you're thrown into it, and it can be quite traumatic, can't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, no one ever phones us up with good news, to put it bluntly. So it is difficult. There are some difficult calls out there, and I think it takes a lot for it to affect me. But it's literally sort of got to just sort of take a breather and sort of just focus on it. Like you go into survival mode is the only way I can sort of explain it. When you're taking the call or dispatching the call, you're there taking it, dispatching it, listening to people screaming in the background, things like that. And then afterwards you're like, oh, what was that? And you sort of do have to remember in that type of job you've got to step back at some point and sort of breathe and think about it, because if you don't, it just piles and piles and piles and piles.
That can be quite tough though, Lisa, because yes, you've just dealt with that real high adrenaline job and you've been responsible for getting the right resources there, and you can hear on the radio it's on a teeter's edge, and sometimes you're watching it on CCTV as well. It really is on the edge, and we all get the result we wanted and everyone's safe, and you literally get the chance to take a deep breath because that channel has been taken over by that job. So all the other jobs are now stacked up and you've got to go and get on with it and start hitting it and give out the next job. It must be quite difficult. It's the same as it is for any of us to actually have that moment to go, blimey, I need to process that.
Yeah. Sometimes you do have, you'll have, depends where you're sat. If you're a call taker, backup or dispatcher, as a dispatcher, it's difficult to sometimes get away from the desk if it's very busy. So you got a firearms job, then you got an RTC, and then you got something else. It's like you say, Dave, it's difficult to process so much information and multitask so many different ways. That's where your backup comes into place. Whereas they can go, let me take this, I'll deal with that, you deal with this. And then it's sort of, you have to find like sort of a downtime bit to actually reflect on what's going on. And that's why we have briefings before and after work, because we all go in a room and go, right, our inspector will go, it's been a horrid shift tonight. Does anyone need to talk about anything or talk to me personally? And you'll get, anything nasty. You'll get, I don't know if your force has TRIM, trauma risk incident management. Anything nasty, we tag it, and then you'll get a call or email saying, look, we're here for support. I've used TRIM a couple of times and they are absolutely brilliant. Absolutely.
Are there any particular jobs that you were able to talk about that made a lasting impression on you?
There is one, which without going into it is about child death. That happened 2 years ago. Back then it didn't affect me. When Ollie was born not breathing, it then triggered it. It brought it to the forefront, even though what the nature was is that I had a call from ambulance saying, here's a log, here's the details, can you attend? Of course we're going to attend. And that's it. I can't remember names, I can't remember the location, I can't remember the date, nothing. And all of that just projected an image into front of my face. And I kept seeing that my husband was in the room with my son lifeless. And it kept repeating and repeating and repeating. And then I had postnatal depression. And that's where I said, I've got to see someone about this, because I couldn't even say the words child death. And then I reached out to TRIM and I went through, I always get the words the wrong way around. So correct me if I'm wrong. It's EMDR or is it EDMR? Where you watch a light.
Yeah, EMDR. EMDR?
Eye movement.
Yeah.
Thing. But
yes,
that was absolutely amazing. That was like, it just reprograms your mind, files everything. And
EMDR,
then,
eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
That's it, yeah. And that worked like a dream. And it was so good for the force to pay out for that. And it really helped me get back. It's made me less anxious of my work. So like, when you get a couple jobs coming in and you go, God, I can't resource this because I have no police officers left because they're at this job. I used to get really angst over it. Whereas now I'm like, I can't do anything about it. I've done the best I can do. It's the support in force. There's loads.
That's really important. It saved any sanity I had left is by saying, look, I can only do what I can do, and as long as I do the best I can. And it was really, I had to distance myself from that because the pressure was building up because everything was a priority, and it's like it was particularly sort of stressful. Do you find the skills are quite similar for call taker and radio operator? Do you think yes, radio operator seems you need to have a periphery, a view, especially when you're dealing with pursuits and things like that.
Oh God, I hate pursuits. But you like if you're a call taker, your skills are easily transferable onto our side, the dark side, so to speak. But you know, as a call taker, you take 999 101, so you deal with 95% of it. The other 5% is learning your call signs, where everyone goes. That's it, you know. And it is like dealing with, like say, your pursuits, your firearms, and that. You know, it is a difficult job, but once you get it, it's like learning to drive. Once you get it, boom, 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 done. You know.
Okay, the amount of things that you guys can do at one time. You know, we're only ever dispatched to one job at a time, but the amount of things, the amount of the control you can have over. I mean, Gemma has more of an idea than me.
We've got a lot of probationers coming through at the moment. We've got a lot of young officers, and you know, when I talk to them, I have to remind them, you know, you're dealing with one job.
Yeah,
you are just dealing with one job. That controller that you're moaning about is dealing with 30.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what they're doing up there.
What do you say? Can you find the collar of the cow? You're like, and I know, both of you were like,
right. On that
there
point,
might be a little delay on that, and you know,
so Jem and Lisa, on that point, you have got to admit there are moments when you say, "Yeah, stand by," just because you're just finishing a conversation, or there's. And there must be this little directory of like,
we know you're doing it, especially when you're overly calm.
One of the most important things as a dispatcher is this phrase: "I just got this one little job." I want you to understand it's the worst, griefiest job. You know, there must be this sort of dictionary of things for dispatchers.
It's the new. Can you do a quick door knock for me, please? They won't be in, but can you just do a door knock?
Yeah. Although the best phrase I've ever heard,
all the job out to you, and I'm like, why did they just say all of that? Because no one is going to put their hand up and say, "Yeah, I'll go to that."
yeah. It's a bit like a quick interview. They just don't exist. But the best phrase I ever heard, and it was Devon and Cornwall, and Lisa, I'm sure it wasn't you, but it was "Stand by." Yeah, stand by. I'm just passing a large log. Anyway.
That's probably why our headsets haven't got Bluetooth.
Yeah. There have been the odd accident where people have pressed their transmit button when they didn't think they were, you know, and it's lovely to get that natural reaction in the background.
Again, we've got some wonderful controllers who've got real character, but they'll either will have missaid something, or someone who's on the radio will have missaid something, or used an inappropriate phonetic word, and you can. It's like watching the newsreaders when they can't hold it together, and you can see the controller giggling through trying to give out jobs.
The amount of times I pushed my foot pedal to answer the phone. Hello.
Yeah.
Over the radio.
Lisa, there actually there's applicants for Devon and Cornwall call takers at the moment, aren't there? So, and that's been extended slightly. Is there quite a turnover with the call takers, or do you find, or
it can? Well, I don't know the statistics. I couldn't tell you that, but there is a lot of people that want a taste for being a police officer, and sometimes they do go through call handling, and sometimes they go, "Oh, actually, I do want to be a police officer." We do lose people to police officers.
Good grounding, really, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, people will stay as call takers, but then migrate over to RDOs, resource deployment officers, because they enjoy it that much. Or sometimes they can move rooms. So you got Exeter, and then some people live down Plymouth, so they go to Plymouth control room and then leave Exeter. Sometimes, needing more staff. So sometimes it could be that, and sometimes people do try it and go, actually, this isn't for me. It's a bit too much. Because it is, when you step into that room, you do realise what actually happens in the real world. Before I joined, I thought police officers took phone calls, police officers dispatched. I thought as soon as you ring 999, people know exactly where you are. That's not the case. It's hard work, but it's very rewarding.
And somebody actually asked up here to find it whether we use My 3 Words, which we do, don't we? So My 3 Words really, so it's down to a 2 square meter spot. So it's brilliant, or something like that. So it's absolutely brilliant thing, which is really helpful, isn't it? So I reckon everyone has that app.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of rural down here. Up here where we are, it's very rural, and you could be stood in the middle of nowhere.
You could be in the woods or something.
Job in the middle of nowhere, and
moors.
What's 3 words? Yeah, it's good.
What 3 words? What 3 words? That's the one. If you don't know what it is, everyone, what 3 words? It literally comes in. You pinpoint your spot, and it will come up with 3 words. I used it actually for G7, so that resources would know when they turned up exactly where they were going to go, and then they had a photograph of what they should be looking at for their points that they were actually going to be doing their road checks with and all that. So brilliant, very simple. As far as other things, such as this little chat, we know this one, don't we, Lisa?
He hates me.
People think he's a Manx cat because he's got no tail. But he lost it in a road accident. His owner used to live the opposite side of headquarters. This is Colin.
Does he live in the control room?
He tries to sneak up all the time.
He goes everywhere. He listens to every confidential meeting. He's in the chief constable's desk.
Oh, yeah.
He's in the mailing room in the basket with confidential.
He's like a Dominic Cummings. He's going to write a book about everything.
Yeah. I used to feed him. I used to just try to get him to come into the ARVs a lot more. So he'd be wandering around. But he got injured going from headquarters to his family's home, and then his family said, "Look, we've had to pay a lot of money to get his tail sort of fixed, and would you like to take him on?" And the security there now don't they, Lisa?
Yeah. I always sometimes accidentally leave the door open so he comes up and sees us. I'd be like, "Who's let this cat in again?" Not me.
It's lovely, and it's a bit like when the dog handlers come up and they let their dogs run riot around the thing, the drugs dogs or whatever, and you just need that now and then, don't you, to break the.
One of the first places we go is the control room, because we know that the dogs, we know that you guys love it. Hopefully it gives you emotion about something else. But it's great for the pups as well. There's so much noise and banter and stuff going on up there. It's a great place to bring a pup to get used to the world. But yeah, we love taking our dogs.
Yeah, we love it. We had Lottie up a couple of weeks ago, and I'm trying to do this firearms job or whatever it is on East Devon, and I can see this white and brown thing just going like this underneath my feet. Yeah, we love the dogs up in the room. Absolutely love them.
What do you think you'd be doing if you weren't a dispatcher or weren't in the police? What do you think?
I couldn't imagine life. I don't know. I before I started all this, I was a doorwoman and security at the hospital.
That's a busy job.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I only was a door supervisor for about 6 months because I found myself getting assaulted, and that's not what I joined the job to do.
Yeah.
But I couldn't imagine life outside the police, so I don't know what I would do. I honestly don't.
You really enjoy your job, fine, because I've noticed on your tweets, because you've got a good Twitter account, a great Twitter account, and just search Lisa Burnett. Is that the right pronunciation, actually, Lisa?
Yes, yeah. It's not anything fancy.
Because I've always assumed it is, and then I've never. I've thought, I don't know if it's right. Actually, maybe I'm just one of those things I've always. But yeah, and do you find as well what I've sort of found? It's always quite nice to go up there. Number one, there always seems to be a buffet going on of sorts. It's always someone's birthday.
We're not allowed now, COVID restrictions.
We're getting over that soon, aren't we?
There's always food.
Hopefully.
That's why when I say standby and it goes quiet, I'm usually eating something.
Is it quite a sociable thing then? Do you amongst the different radio operators and things, when there is a slight downtime, and because you've got the inspector in there, the sergeant in there, you've got your supervisors in there, and then you've got your room in Exeter. Can you sort of describe what's going on in there, for example? How many radio channels?
The room in Exeter, we have 5 channels. So we have North Devon, that covers North Devon, West Devon. So that's 1 channel. And then Exeter is 1 channel. East and Mid Devon is 1 channel. South Devon's 1 channel, and Torbay's its own channel. because it's so busy. And then in Plymouth, I think you got Cornwall, Plymouth, Cornwall East, Cornwall West, Cornwall Mid, Plymouth, and another one. But I don't tend to go down there. But it is you're sort of sat opposite each other, sort of thing. Obviously, you got the screens and that, so you're quite close to each other. So you do have, when you have downtime, you do have a bit of banter, and that I think. Two members of my section, they've got a tennis ball and they throw a tennis ball to each other. I think because one of them's given up smoking, it's one thing to keep her busy during downtime, not to have that craving. So yes, simple things like that. Or there's a card game in there, and I can't remember what it's been there for years. And we play the card game, even though we know the answers and the questions. We'll play it. Just keep it. This is on night shift. This isn't when it's busy. This is when we're trying to keep ourselves awake, or we're, we just talk about random things. We're normal people doing a, crazy job. That's really, really good and really, really rewarding. And
how many jobs do you remember? How many calls? I don't know if you're able to say for the whole force, for example, for Devon and Cornwall, this is where you are. But do we know how many calls over a 24-hour period? Roughly, it depends, obviously, if it's Christmas in the summer, I imagine. But what sort of figure are you looking at as an average?
I could probably say log-wise, but not call-wise. I think logs we manage at the moment around 700 to 800 logs. So I'd say we'd probably be taking about 1,000 calls a day, around that. I know we take about 600, 999 calls, but some of them are 101 or criming or anything like that. Anything that goes to other departments, I think. So I'd say averaging around 1,000 calls a day. Ian Drummond-Smith might tell me different on that. I think it's around that. Something like that.
Yeah. Ian Drummond-Smith is another excellent one on Twitter. So he's good. I would often come up to the control rooms as a farms tactics advisor, where I'd meet the inspector, who is the Texas Farms commander, and it was always good. And I found that just as exciting actually than sitting in a bush pointing guns at people and things as well, which was quite fun as well. But it was quite nice, and especially if they were, other forces will say, "Oh, we're never quiet. We're not like the Met. They'll be like, geezers, we're never quiet. It's always busy." And you think
you'll phone the Met up and you'll say, "Right, it's in regards to our log 300. What's your log number?" "Oh, it's 20,000."
And the Met, they always ring me up. It would be like 10 o'clock at night. No, it would be in the winter, and they'd say, "Oh, what's the weather down there?" "Oh, Devon, isn't it? It's always sunny, blue sky outside." It never rains. It's fine. Gotta feed it.
If only.
Gotta feed it. So do you think you're going to be here for this career until you retire? Do you think?
I reckon so, because I can't see myself doing anything else, to be quite honest. I really can't. I don't know. I think because I'm just so used to my section, my police family, and just the police terminology, and also getting that end goal at the end of the day, like constantly trying to help someone, or even though some of them are griefy, at least you're helping some people, because we are the point, we are the end game. People come to us, we don't go to anyone else, say, "Here's a job, go buy." We have to deal with it. And, just helping those people and getting the thanks and that, it makes you feel like you've done a good job.
So Devon and Cornwall obviously advertising at the moment for people to come and up into the control room. What sort of attributes are they looking for? There might be people listening thinking, "Oh, quite fancy that."
Well, as long as I think they're probably looking for, I wouldn't know the criteria on the form, but as long as you're calm under pressure, you can have different forms of communicating with people, because sometimes you do have people that phone in with mental health or learning difficulties, and it's not always abundantly clear. But sometimes you sort of, either by research or by just certain things in the call, like I had one the other week, and I thought something, she's not understanding me. So I sort of made my language different so she could understand it. And it turned out she did have learning difficulties. So it's difficult when you can't see the person you're talking to. But something like, being able to communicate in different styles, taking your time, wanting to help people, being what's the word? So being organizational, I can't even say the word. Organized, that's the word. Being organized, taking facts from what you're being told, being clear and concise, being able to work on your own initiative, things like that. And wanting to help people is the big thing, is what we're looking for. We want people to come in the control room, to be part of the family, and to help us to help them. It's a very rewarding career in itself.
And you get tea, cake, you get in a nice warm office.
Cake on your birthday, got to bring food in on Christmas, food on in New Year's.
You can send them to jobs and they're having a little moan and you're like, why are they moaning? Then you look out the window and see that it's absolutely chucking it down with rain and you're like,
I even have one of my officers who on night shift the other night, he was at Columpton Services and he goes, did you want me to bring you back a McDonald's? I said no. I said because everyone else will want one.
It'd be an expensive round, couldn't it?
How do you actually deal with, because you obviously get a lot of mental health people suffering mental health, suicidal people literally will ring you up or you'll track them down. Who would actually track them down then to call that number and then you're literally talking to them as they are at their lowest ebb, but standing on the edge of the cliff, and you're then bringing resources in to try to mediate with them, aren't you?
Oh yeah. It's I remember my first one, and it was someone who phoned 101 because they don't always ring 999; they ring 101 sometimes. So you'll be on the 101 line expecting, your regular sort of jobs, and then this person will ring 101 and say, I can't take it anymore. And you'll say, what do you mean? And then you'll go into the conversation, listen to what's going on. And there's, she was on the beach, wouldn't tell me where she was. And I think back then we didn't have the enhanced crisis communicators, which sometimes when you've got someone that's really in a crisis, we get someone that's trained to talk to them either via a tablet or they ring them up, sort of trying to, talk to them about what's happened and try and find where they are and try and get appropriate resources to them. But this time we didn't have that. This is going back 8 years ago, maybe 7-8 years ago. And I had to literally had to pass the phone to someone that walked past her to find out where she was. And it took me about an hour in order to talk to her and get that person to tell me where they were in order to get the resources there. It's Cornwall doesn't have, or Devon and Cornwall don't have a police officer right around the corner waiting for something to happen. They can travel for quite a far distance. So trying to talk to her, trying to reassure her, and listening is a big thing in that control room. If someone's pouring their heart out to you, let them do it. Don't interrupt them. Just how I treat people like that is basically like they're my own family member or friend. I've got all the time in the world for people like that. I don't mind it whatsoever, as long as we get them help. That's the main thing, and it takes whatever it takes. And then sometimes we have the ECCs now. Sometimes we get the location. Failing that, we have something called a SARLOC. I don't know if you.
The ECC, sorry, what's that?
The Enhanced Crisis Communicators.
Oh yeah, correct. Okay.
Yeah, they get put on. I want to say, I might be wrong, a 4-day course. Talk to people in crisis. They get trained. I haven't been on it, but they get trained in all sorts of different tactics and things like that.
Are they in your control room and they're just specialists in those areas? So they would be.
So they're normal call handlers, RDOs. Yeah. If we have someone in a real crisis, we will switch it to the supervisor saying, "Is there anyone available for this?" And they get the tablet. They text them, I believe first. Is it okay to talk? And then they phone them, and then they take it from there. And you just let them take their time. And then we either get their location through them telling us, or sometimes they will accept a SARLOC. Have you ever heard of SARLOC, Harry?
No.
Have you not? That's probably before your time then, as you retired.
Oh, God. Right, after
so
my time, you mean? After my time, you mean?
Yeah. So
Go on.
it's basically like someone in the control room will send a link to your phone, and you press the link, and it will tell us exactly where you are. A bit like What 3 Words?
Yes. No, that was there. I just didn't know it was called that, to be honest.
So we have that as well, and if need be, then we can interpret data even more. But that's generally, and sometimes we have to work with the agencies like ambulance or fire. If we don't have if we don't recognise the telephone number, sometimes we'll phone up ambulance or fire, say, do you have a record of the number? Do you know who it links to? Things like that. Yeah. So we've got so many tools just to help people in crisis.
Yeah. Well done.
We deal with.
I'll take my hat off to you. Honestly, I could not do your job. I don't have the mental capacity. I don't have the skills necessary to do your job. So I've always, I've listened to the stories that Gemma's told when she's come home, and we've got a few friends that live local to us that are operators. One, she's been an operator for 22 years.
Wow.
And she's always on the radio, and it's a lovely, familiar voice. And sometimes when we finish with a rubbish job, we just need you guys to say, well done. And quite often you will say, guys, that was incredible. Well done. The role you play is incredible. And I take my hat
and it
off
makes
to
it
you
so much easier. I always found when I was resource going from job to job, maybe, and going and then thinking, I just want to get a meal, but I'm starving. I didn't have, and then you get another job and you're like, yeah, I'm really, sort of thing. But the manner of which the radio operator was so important as well. Because they were often very good, they would often say, I'm sorry to do this. Can you do this for, can you put this, on your way back? Any chance,
Never
and
annoy the dispatcher.
No.
You're a probationer or you've been in a long time. Don't annoy the dispatcher.
And they know all the tricks. They know all the tricks from.
The thing is, you guys can see the logs now because you got PDAs.
Yeah.
So we can't cover it in chocolate or anything like that. You can go, actually, no, this is what it says. Or not.
Do this quick job. It's only going to take you all day and then stick with you forever. It is true. It's true. So your Twitter page, we'll just add that to it so we can see. You've got the same mug I see you're drinking from today.
Oh yeah.
So DCP, lowest score, RDO, Burnett. And make sure you follow Lisa, because that's always a really good one. You've actually got some good people there with your bosses. You've got some pretty good ones there. I find anyone to do with the operations and that side of things are very practical people who like getting out there. They're farms tactics advisors, or they really care about their staff because their staff are actually out there doing it, and you have to be nowadays, don't you? I think Devon and Cornwall, we're quite lucky with that.
I love trying to dispatch chief inspectors to alarms going off or something like that. If they're nearby, I just try and see if they'll go. But they will. They absolutely love it.
Units, could you just pop to here?
Yeah. Well, we had the chief constable sweeping up the road a couple of years ago, didn't we, on the A35?
Yeah. Well, he's good because he, in the past, Sean Sawyer is a top guy. I've often.
Oh yeah.
But he'd just turn up at an RTC with a couple of McDonald's coffees for the resources there and things like that. It's just those little things. And I'm still telling that story now. It just shows it works.
He's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Very lucky. So come to Devon and Cornwall, join our call takers, and have no problems for the rest of your life.
Sit in the dry, eat cake, and have a laugh.
Exactly. And deal with 3 calls a day. That'd be fine. You'll be fine. Just come in. See, it's good. Now I've left, I can just lie and entice people in, transferees, and say, yeah, it's just sun. Look,
come
beautiful
to
views.
Sunny Devon and Cornwall.
It definitely takes a certain person. It definitely takes a certain person to be able to do what you do.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because we live in a beautiful area down here in the southwest. Everyone comes on their holidays, but you've still got mental health, drugs, you've got domestics, all those universal problems that in every country there is. Yeah. And it doesn't mean, and it just means with a more county force, you just got less people to deal with it all. So you're just, I've always said, you can be just as busy because there's less of you to deal with it. And when you ask for backup, that must be quite, I mean, I've been to a few jobs when you think you're going to a job and it's all going a bit wrong, or you're going to a job and I'm single crewed. And you can see the radio operator getting a bit concerned because my nearest backup is like 25 minutes away. And it's lovely having their sort of concern. You think, yeah, I'll be there in 5 minutes. You think it's just going to kick off.
yeah. It is a tough job in Devon and Cornwall because, like I said, you haven't got an officer around the corner. They do have to travel some distance, but you get all that sort of intelligence and that, and sort of interrogating the data you've got in front of you, speaking to the caller to get more information. And you do have to remember these people you're dispatching are human beings going to a job that you don't know what's going to happen. And you think, if in doubt, always send a backup. That's what I do. And I do try and make it a bit banterish and jovial rather than serious all the time, unless it has to be serious. And I do try and lighten it up because, you guys go from job to job to job to job and you don't get a break. And I don't know how you do it. I feel bad when I've got to send you from job to job to job and you don't even get a pee break.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm there sipping my pee. Like,
don't worry.
It's easier for men than
Don't
it is
worry.
for women.
Dog handlers pee what they like.
Yeah.
I remember being at a place where there was this lorry with liquid gas in it, and it was on its side. It literally driven up the thing, and it was on its side, and we're all downhill. So we're thinking it's liquid gas. It will go downhill, and there's all these hot exhausts, and think, well, that's going to be. But anyway, it's all dealt with because these things are double skinned, and so luckily it was all right. And then the lead fire officer said, "Where's Amanda?" And the other fire officer said, "Sir, she's just putting a small satellite fire out in the field behind the hedge over there." And you went, "Oh, okay, yeah, received." He knew exactly she'd just gone for a pee. So it is very much more difficult for women, isn't it? But anyway, Lisa, you've been a star. Thank you so much. And Jem, nice to see you as well. That is our hour. It's flown by. It's been amazing. It's been lovely to have you, and thank you so much. And Dave, I'm still amazed Devon and Cornwall is still allowing people to come here.
I know. Yeah, we're obviously doing something right. That you get.
Well, I think you're neutralising my inappropriate comments. You're fine.
I do try my best,
Guys,
Harry. I do try my best.
It's been emotional, everyone. Thank you very much. And next week, I do apologise. I'll probably do something on Dartmoor, but I'm with 10 Tours next Saturday, I'm afraid, with Churro School. So there's no 10 tour, no frontline chat tomorrow. Next week, rather. I have got a couple of guests in the lineup ready, coming in as well, but they're not going to be as good as Lisa, unfortunately, or Jen. All right. It's been emotional, guys, and thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.